On today's episode of Gathering the Kings,
you have to become the person that can sell and deliver your product. Sure. What I mean is, if you're delivering a good experience, you're not going out and getting drunk every night. You're not lying, you're not cheating, you're not doing X, Y, and Z. And people are like, well, that it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But when I stopped being the person that, it's almost like you almost have to be able to deserve to be able to sell it. That's right. A lot of people think they just come into a place and they just deserve to be able to sell something. Like the people that sell Ferraris, they didn't show up on the Ferrari lot and start selling Ferraris. Right. The same goes in business. You don't deserve to sell something until you at your core have become the person that can sell and deliver that product or experience. And when you become that person, your ability to sell becomes drastically easier.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I'm your host. Today, I've got Max Mayes here on the King stage, my bearded brother from another mother. How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's Friday. We were just talking about goodness gracious, the week is gone already. I asked you if you had kids. You said yes. I'm like, well, that's why.
Yep.
Businesses,
every time, man.
Clients, kids, the whole deal. I'm just excited for you to be here. Thanks for being here. Tell us what kind of business that you got, brother.
So we run a consulting company that works with entrepreneurs, businesses, kind of at any level, but generally around the 7-figure mark. And they are looking to create predictable, profitable, and powerful businesses for them, for their family, for their legacy, whatever they want to leave it for, whatever they want to create.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And you're right. Those 3 things are really important. So hopefully we can dive into those 3 things. You gave me a little behind the scenes on what those mean. And I'm just totally in agreement with you. Even a lot of the concepts that we kick around the King's table here on this show, or even in our mastermind group are of that. So I just am excited for us to be able to be like-minded in that way today. Before we get rolling, you've had a lot of success. You've had a couple different companies. You've made some transitions. At this stage in the game, you're playing a bigger play here. You're trying to help other business owners, which is phenomenal. But why? Why are you pressing in? You've already had a good amount of success. Why not just sail away to the sunset?
So biggest shift for me recently, I have a daughter who's 2.5. Her name's Violet, and my wife, Haley. There's been this massive transition in my life recently that went, I'd say 6 months ago, it really kicked in. So my whole life was generate profit. It was all profit based, right? And then recently I had a massive mindset shift to purpose. And people are like, yeah, everybody's all about their purpose, whatever. But It wasn't you can be about your purpose. And a lot of times people have a purpose. They're just not in alignment with it.
Right.
Or they're just going about it the wrong way. Right. So my biggest thing was, once I learned how to leverage my purpose and I went through these businesses and I grew these companies, I was in an incredible place where I could just step back and say, all right, great. What can I do to help these other people? What can I do to help these other guys? What can I do to really start to transform the landscape of business, so a lot of entrepreneurs don't go down the same path that I went?
Yeah. I love that. That warrior to king transition that we talk about often on this show is not just necessarily the size of the business, it's mindset. And what you just talked about, working towards living like a king or being fulfilled, purpose. Yeah, there's a lot of talk, a lot of buzzword about purpose and your why and give me the juice. And it's obviously always my first question. But I think when you really hold on to that, when it's not just surface talk, when you've actually spent time you and the freaking notebook and a pen and your thoughts figuring out what am I here for and what am I really doing here? Who am I impacting? What am I really meant for? Then you can go for it. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the biggest thing is you know you're living for your purpose when you will say yes to opportunities you don't necessarily want to, and say no to opportunities you want to out of alignment.
Yeah.
So like it goes again, I woke up this morning, I was like 2-year-old or 2.5-year-old slept with us last night, didn't sleep super great, right? Woke up nice and early and I was like, man, I was literally sitting in the kitchen. I was like, I don't want to do what I'm about to do. Don't want to work out. Don't want to do any of this stuff. Why am I going to do it? It's like, well, and then it comes down to like operating out of a place of abundance. Well, that's what you're called to do. So you get up and you do it. And then after it, you're like, oh shit, that wasn't that bad. Right. Exactly. But it's, and I would say that's it.
Yeah. There's two versions of ourselves, right? I call it the 5 a.m. Chaz and the 7 a.m. Chaz. The 5 a.m. Chaz is the one that wakes up, and then the 7 a.m. is after the workout. And the 7 a.m. guy is always thankful, in a good mood, excited about the day. The 5 a.m. dude, man, forget that dude. He is not trustworthy at all. You just can't believe him. You can't trust him, can't believe him. You got to quiet that guy down and just freaking kick him into gear. So I can relate to that. I think that most listeners can too, whether it's working out or getting up, to just get to a job site or get to a sales call or whatever it is, or to a leadership meeting. I think all those things we just do out of obligation because, hey, look, man, this is what we're called to.
Yeah.
Love that perspective. Let's go to your journey, man. I want to know, how'd you get started? Like before, like back, your first business, entrepreneurialism, how did it all start?
Yeah. So I started out in law school. Well, I went to college, graduated college with an economics degree, went to law school, did my first year. Absolutely hated it. Absolutely. And it was funny. So while I was in law school, I was running a business creating like clothing for athletic guys.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Got a lot of and that was kind of where it all started. So I learned how to build websites, learned how to run e-commerce, learned how to market, learned how to build an audience on Instagram, did the whole deal through that. Right. And in law school, I had it during the last few months, I kind of had to make a decision. Was I going to stay in law school or was I going to focus on the business? And obviously I was living with my parents, was going to law school and there's a lot of pressure that was hey, do this. So I shut the business down. After my first year of law school, was never want to do that again. Yeah. And had an opportunity. I was looking for a place to work out and had an opportunity to buy into a gym. Okay. So got into a gym, bought in 50-50, and then took it over. And when I took it over, it was a weird gym. There was $3,000 a month in revenue. The rent on it was $5,800. So it was and what I didn't know was how much back he owed when I took it over, which just goes into doing more due diligence before you buy a company. But that's right. Started getting into high ticket sales, turned it to a CrossFit gym, branded it. Everything's going well. Start growing that. And that was fun. I enjoyed it, but I was doing it to have a place to work out and train, to try to train for CrossFit more so.
Isn't that funny how guys like you and I will take something that we want to do as a hobby and we're like, no, I can't just go there and work out. I got to own it and then grow it. Isn't that a terrible, wonderful thing all at the same time?
It is. Yeah. And then you're but so it starts consuming your time. And I was and then again, it's trying to train. I get very intense on the things I do. So training, I wasn't just training 2 hours a day. It was 6 hours a day. It was 3 2-hour workouts, but I was training so much. I had to take naps in between. Wow. To be able to go train again. Yeah. I got a little glimpse into that. And I love the training aspect, but what I wasn't doing was really taking care of the business side of it. So things that and it was really the first business I owned. So things that should have been red flags, didn't hit me till they were too late. Yeah. And then it was too late. Ended up closing that down and got into construction. Worked for my wife's uncle on a crew of 5 guys doing remodels, and an hour away from where I lived, making $15 an hour. Yeah. So it was from entrepreneur, loving what I was doing to hating what I was doing every day. But I got good at it and went and worked for a guy as a project manager for about 1.5 years, and then opened up my own construction company, which I just ran until basically getting acquired by another company and starting this consulting business.
Wow. The journey there, I think, is just so real. I want to get into some of those red flags here in a little bit, but just to know that obviously you took something from underwater to surviving to then closing it down again is a whole part of the journey. And then, the fact that you went from a retail gym to construction is a whole nother conundrum. It's a whole nother brain function, I feel like. But at the same time, too, we talk about this in Gathering the Kings just because we've got so many different industries represented in the group. It's like at a certain level, it's just business, right? Like it's the same process. It's all the same mindset, especially if you remove the X's and the O's of gym versus remodeling, then now we have to talk about business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's from sales, like to growing a business to like, one of my biggest ways to grow. People hate referral marketing. I don't know why. They think Facebook ads are going to save their life. They're not. Like, and if you're running Facebook ads and you're doing under $1 million, if you're doing under 10 grand a month in like net profit, I tell people don't run a Facebook ad because you probably don't need it. And like you can refer, I grew my gym from zero, literally $300 to 1.3 million in my first 9 months just through referral partners. Mm-hmm. And people are like, it's so, it wasn't through Facebook ads. It was through referrals. The second year I grew it through Facebook ads because I had like tapped out my referrals, but I went from the guy that no one knew to doing luxury $5 million homes through that process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're 100% right. Strategic partnerships can be the ultimate gasoline, especially for a guy who's even just trying to get to the 7 figures. And in my opinion, like you said, even into the multiple 7 figures, like the strategic partnerships really, I don't know if they ever tap out, but if you're local, then they possibly could. But I just think that the market penetration is like, that's how you do it. And of course you can get the awareness factor through ads and a whole bunch of other tactical items, but super good information. I hope the listeners are paying attention. Before we move on from that though, strategic partners, referrals, like just real quick on that, like how do you go about that? How do you think about maybe who would be a good strategic partner for me? Because, our businesses are different. Maybe I'm in the trades, maybe I'm in retail, maybe I'm in, high ticket sales, like whatever. How do I think about who a strategic partner could be for me?
So a lot of people, and this is really funny because I'm actually getting ready to fire a salesperson over this, but going through referrals, people think that it's just networking. Networking without intention,
right?
It is not developing referrals. Like join 97 associations, good for you. You just spend a bunch of money on associations and you go and you're social and whatever. And the problem is like, you don't see this much with introverts, but extroverts. Extroverts are the ones, and I'm like, whatever, right on the line from like a couple of the profile things that I've done, but right on the line, a little bit more on the extrovert side. And like the really extroverted people will go to social things to be social. Yeah. And they'll make friends, but like that isn't necessarily the way to close sales. And you have to remember, like you're going to networking. So, and like I hear a lot of guys say like, oh, I'm going to play golf. Right? Like big, like guys in insurance, got to play golf. Let's play golf with people. And I get it. Like it gives you an excuse to get on the golf course. You're telling your wife, hey, we're developing networking relationships. But then what you have to do is you have to start tracking those metrics. Like so I have a scorecard for my salespeople. How many meetings did you have last week? How many were referred from the associations you joined? Or how many sales were referred from the associations you joined? And how many sales did you close? Because if you're doing, do 100 a week, I don't care. Yeah. I'd rather you do 1 a week and get a sale a week than do 100 a week and get none a week.
Right.
So like the way that's kind of a aside, but when you really start to look at your network marketing people, you want to start to understand like who has a complementary business that not can just provide value to you, but who can you provide so much value to they have to refer. So mine was interior designers as a contractor. Like you're an interior designer, you charge $150 an hour. It takes 10 hours to design an interior remodel, right? So you're $1,500. Now you're designing homes that are really nice. And traditionally what I found is a lot of interior designers also like nice things, right? They want to drive the Mercedes, they want to live in a nice house. Right. So you're spending, you get $1,500 for a client for a remodel for 10 hours of design. It's not very much. That's not really, you got to have a shit ton of clients to make some money. Yeah. And then, they'll sell the furniture and they'll make money on the furniture. That doesn't come to the end of the project. And then you're like, the interior designer's like the go-to resource for the homeowner throughout the whole thing. It's a little chaotic for them. So what I said was, refer me as a contractor. I'll deliver a good experience to you, the interior designer. I'll give you 5% of the gross. And I'll do this great experience, deliver it so you can trust me. And then you and I are a team versus you and the homeowner versus me. Because when that happens, like it just it's a mess, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So then I was going to them and they would refer to me, a $200,000 remodel.
Yep.
Well, they get 10 grand on it, 5K up front, 5K at the end. Now their $1,500 just turned into 11.5.
Right. Yep.
And they know that the job's going to get finished well, because if the job takes forever to finish, they're not getting their furniture referral money or whatever, like the money that they make on their furniture, until the very end.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was adding more value to them than they necessarily were to me, or at least it seemed that way. Like, hey, I can go get jobs, but I'm going to give you all this for referring me.
Yeah, exactly.
So you find people that can gain a ton from you and complementary businesses. Yep. And then you actually have to go like create a strategy to talk to them and give them a really good offer.
Yeah. I loved how you broke down basically the ability to align with that person. And I'll add one more thing here for the listener to be able to find that commonality in the business. The commonality is the person that you're serving, right? So in this case, it was a homeowner.
Yeah.
But you got to figure out like the likeness, like, okay, a plumber also, does homeowner. And yeah, that could be a referral partner for you, but the interior designer is maybe a better referral partner just because of the like-mindedness around this premium remodel experience, where the plumber is probably a better referral for the tile guy, because the tile and the plumbing go like almost hand in hand, and they kind of like one needs the other in order to be finished inside of a bathroom remodel or something like that. So that came up from a recent conversation inside of our group. We've got a super big tile guy, and he's like, look, man, I love plumbers. I know all the plumbers. They're all my best friends. I take great care of them because, he's doing $5, $6, $7 million in sales, and it all comes from referrals. So I think that there's a lot to what you're talking about. I hope the listeners are paying attention. You want to add something?
And it was an interesting thing that you just said. So the biggest shift is a lot of times, like when you do this, you don't want the bottom of the barrel plumber, right? You don't want the bottom of the barrel designer. So you want the best.
Yeah.
Because they're going to bring you the best. The high pay, people like always get this confused. The highest paying client is 99 out of 10 times the best client you can have. Like if you perform well, if you shit the bed, they're the worst because they'll sue you and whatever. But like they will pay you, they will communicate with you because they've done all these things to get to where they're at today.
That's right.
And they just have a different mindset. But what that forces you to do is inside of your business is to elevate yourself.
Freaking level up.
Yeah, and so a lot of people are like, well, I can't get in touch with the biggest plumber. No, you can, but you have to do the best. Right before I got acquired, I was at Sunday night, 8:00, put my daughter to bed. Homeowner calls me. It was a design referral, big $5 million oceanfront house. Hey, I think our roof's leaking. I didn't touch the roof. We had no part of the roof. It was an interior remodel. So you drive out there, you go up in the attic, and like, yeah, it's not great, but the experience was so over and above that they continued to refer work. So
that's right. Yeah, that experience. We talk about this with one of my companies called Transcend Transaction, and the client journey, as you're talking about, whether it be before the sale, in the sales process, or even after, there's this feeling or this experience rather that you want to leave with the other person. And sometimes that requires you to maybe outline a process. Maybe sometimes it's just responding to something and taking care of something that maybe had nothing to do with what you said, but it comes down to a relationship. It comes down to trust. It comes down to the ability to be accountable or to be counted on. And I think you're given all those things as a great tool. What would you say back in some of these businesses, or maybe even now in the consulting business, what would you say is a good decision that you made in the business, super practical, that has led to success that we can learn from?
As the entrepreneur who's selling the thing you're selling, doing whatever you have to do, you have to be the person that can sell the product. Like, so, and what I mean by that is like, I always work with clients on this at first is certainty, right? And we do this like in our 3-day mastermind or in our 90-day implementations, like for our clients that pay us $50,000 to clients that pay us $10,000. The one thing that you have to do is you have to become the person that like can sell and deliver your product. Sure. What I mean is if you're delivering a good experience, like you're not going out and getting drunk every night. You're not lying, you're not cheating, you're not doing X, Y, and Z. And people are like, well, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But when I stopped being the person that, it's almost like you almost have to be able to deserve to be able to sell it. Like,
That's right.
you don't, a lot of people think they just come into a place and they just deserve to be able to sell something. Like the people that sell Ferraris, they didn't show up on the Ferrari lot and start selling Ferraris.
Right.
The same goes in business. Like, you don't deserve to sell something until you at your core have become the person that can sell and deliver that product or experience. And when you become that person, your ability to sell becomes drastically easier.
Yeah. Yeah. The sustainability factor is even like 3 layers down of what you're talking about, because there's people out there that can sell, and they can sell it without integrity. They're not good people, all this stuff. Right. But eventually it's not sustainable. It implodes. They themselves implode the business. Right. So everything that you're talking about is spot on, because if you plan on being around for a while at all, which then leads to strategic partnerships and referrals and an actual business that stays around forever, and profitability where you can actually take your family on a vacation and do the cool things that you want to do, it all comes back down to characteristic traits. Like what's this bucket that we're talking about here? Identity, growth.
It's identity, right? So I always tell people, they're like, they're like, all right. So we talk a lot about stories. So you have these stories in your head. And the reason you have stories in your head is because you've placed your actions in front of your identity. So if you have, like, people talk about imposter syndrome, or they talk about not being good enough, or they talk about maybe they're kind of like insecure about leading their people. That's a good one. Like, if you're insecure about leading your people, it's probably because your action precedes your identity. So your action is leading people. You're trying to lead people. Your identity is not a leader.
Right.
And then, so you have a disconnect. And so the result is over here, right? So you have action, identity, result. And there's not, like, it's not lining up. So you have this fraction of a story in your mind, and you say, hey, look, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not the person who can, or I'm not qualified to, or you go the other way and it's their fault. Well, my salespeople aren't listening. My accountants don't do a good job.
Right.
My business partners don't value me.
Right.
My customers are entitled. What happened probably is your actions are preceding your identity. So just pivot. When your identity precedes your actions, that's going to lead to your results without a story. It's just confident. Like, when you become a leader, the actions of leadership flow effortlessly.
100%.
And then the results, you're not chasing results. They just happen.
Yeah.
I had a guy tell me a while ago, he was like, I always had the story that, like, of the hero's journey. Life has to be hard to get better, right? This guy told me, he was like, he sent me a message on Instagram, and he was like, that's just a story you tell yourself. Because the story I told myself and I posted on Instagram was, life has to be hard, but that's okay. All right. And he sends me a message. He's like, hey, just so you know, that's just a story you're telling yourself, and it's wrong. I was like, what do you mean? Like, and that was after a journaling experience. So I do these things called stacks. So it was after this journaling experience. That was the outcome I came out with. So it doesn't matter. Like, you can journal and still come up with false beliefs. Totally. And he was like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I was like, what do you mean? So he was generous enough to spend like 2 hours talking. He was like, you tell yourself that life has to be hard, and by doing that, you're making it a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
What came into my mind afterwards, that was a massive shift for me, was I tell myself that life has to be hard because I want to go through the down so I can be the hero. So it's an ego-driven process. And a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people see the journey of that they might make a mistake, or someone else does something to them, or whatever. And so life is hard, or that it's the natural flow of life, that life has to be hard, and
Yeah.
The problem is, you oftentimes make life difficult so you can rise as the hero. Right? Which is an ego thing. And it sucks because when you do that, like, I tell people this too. If you're a single guy and you run your business and you don't have employees and you don't have a family, you don't have kids, it doesn't really matter. Well, that's shallow. That's kind of the truth. Like, it just is. The problem, because you can be the hero, nobody cares. Like, be the hero for your customer, cool, it's whatever. The problem is when you have teams, a family, and other people that depend on you,
Yeah.
they also have to go on the journey with you, which means you take them through the pit so you can peak.
Yep.
Guess what? They don't get the peak. For the first few times they do, and I get it. And that's what happened in my marriage. For the first 2 years, I'd go through a pit, coming up to the peak. My wife would be like, "Oh, congratulations! Like we're here, whatever." Time 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's like, nah.
She's like, "Why do you keep doing this?"
Yeah.
Like, and then I would be like, "There's nothing I can do about it." I just tell people that's like the biggest excuse you can tell yourself ever. Like there's nothing you do about it. Now there was something you could have done about it.
Then.
But so he tells me this thing, he's like, life is easy. I just started looking at it and I was like, all right. So now I get past this thing of like needing to be the hero. But I needed to be the hero because I didn't have a solidified identity. So I would make my actions lead to my results, which then I would associate with my identity. Mm-hmm. So I would have all these like mismatched stories and I like couldn't figure it out. And my whole mind shifted when he told me that, because I was like, all right, so he was like, life should be easy. Life is effortless and life just flows. Then I started digging into my identity. I'm like, who am I? Right? So I have like 6 statements. I'm a warrior. I'm a beacon. I'm a lover. I'm a leader. I'm a rainmaker, and I'm a game changer. Those 6 things.
Yeah. And
I didn't just pick those out of the air, right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, just pick affirmations and say them a bunch and you'll be good to go. No, like those were critical foundational pieces to me that I was living sometimes. I'm a warrior, right? My body's healthy, strong, whatever. I would work out sometimes. I'm a beacon, right? I do what God calls me to do. I live my purpose in life. Sometimes. I'm a lover. When it's convenient for me, I'll love my wife and my daughter. I'm a leader. I can lead people, sure. Right? I'm a rainmaker. I can make money. I'm a game changer. I can change the way people do business. The problem was I wasn't living those identities fully. Right. So I went back and I started reestablishing these identities every single day. And I would go through and I would take stock every single day. Am I doing these 6 things?
Yeah.
So there's a part where the actions do have to align, but the identity comes first. So once I came down to this, like I haven't drank in, I don't know, a while, and I don't keep track of it because I don't care. But it's not like if you're sober, which I'm sober from other things like other drugs and stuff, and I do know how long it's been. Like I stopped taking Adderall not last April, the April prior, April 1st, 2 years ago. Know exactly when it was. Right, keep track of that date, all that. So if you are sober, congratulations, that's fantastic. Keep track of your days. I think it's incredible. But I stopped drinking just because like it didn't align with those 6 things.
Yep.
So like,
so good.
Right. And so my action, there's no story.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and there's no even desire because I know who I am. And then the actions just happen because it's like the actions are produced from the integrity of my identity. And then the results, like, and that's where people making money isn't difficult. And everybody, I know 99.9% of the people that are listening to this are like, you don't know what you're talking about. Or, okay, I'm sure it's not hard for you. Or, okay, you haven't been through the struggle. No, I have been through the struggle. Like down to bankruptcy almost. Down to like almost losing my whole family. Down to literally my wife like with divorce papers in her hands ready to walk out of the door. So like I've been there. Wow. And it was the process of coming back from literally, and it's been the journey of this last year. Like literally, wife's getting ready to walk out of the door. Done, taking our daughter. Business getting ready to go bankrupt. Hold you to the transition of that. And that what really started to click with me was that life is easy. Yeah. And when he told me that, like that journey of identity to action to result became very clear to me. And so when I wasn't making it rain, I still was doing the actions that I would do as a rainmaker to make money. And then you don't live in a scarcity mindset. You're not worried about like I'm not worried about when the next check come in or when the next whatever or when the next thing.
Right.
Because like
doesn't mean that you're not intensely going after it. It just means that you're not worried about it.
Oh, dude, yeah. And that's like, and now it's not, I'm not on a gas. I don't have my foot on the gas or the brake. Like I'm not, you know how most people, it's like you make money, you slow down. You make money, you slow down, right?
Every sales guy and entrepreneur out there.
Yeah, exactly. But that doesn't happen anymore because the money's a metric of the other 6 identity traits.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, money's not associated with your body. First of all, that's 100%. Yeah. Like if there's literally anybody out there, there's literally a study that was done on used car salespeople. The better you dress, the more in shape you are, the more, it's called a halo effect. The more somebody automatically trusts you, and the more they trust you, they assign all the good qualities of trust to all your other things. So they're going to trust you about your car recommendations. They're going to give you less objections. They're going to do X, Y, and Z. Stay in shape. Like get off the couch, do your work, whatever. But that shift, understanding that life is easy when you live from a place of identity, is the biggest shift I think entrepreneurs need to take, so they aren't spinning their chaos, sending their family, sending their clients just into turmoil, so they can have the feel-good experience of being the hero.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think probably the majority of entrepreneurs fit into that category of needing to be the hero, whether they're ready to admit it or not. I found myself following you in your journey. Like, oh man, yep, I've been right there. Oh, yep, I've been there too. And wow, we did it again and again and again. One thing I want to share real quick, I don't share a bunch here about myself on these shows, but one thing that you said that has really stuck out to me, and I haven't shared this with really hardly anybody ever, let alone on the show publicly, but I've never drank. And not because of anything necessarily. Yes, I find myself as a man of faith, but there's people that go to my church. My wife drinks wine sometimes. Like there's no judgment from me. It's like, it is what it is. Like for me particularly, I've just never had a desire. And then I had this alignment thing, like, well, if it doesn't, like if the end result of that doesn't give me what I want. And so I've thought about like that for not just alcohol, but just in general. Does this get me what I want? So first off, do I know what I want? If I know what I want clearly, then this action either helps me or it doesn't. If it doesn't, I don't do it. Plain and simple. If it does, I do it. Easy enough. And that's really, really easy, except for that it's super hard, right? Like it's easy to talk about it.
It's simple.
Super hard
it's
to
simple,
do.
But it's hard. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. So I just probably about a year ago, I had someone inside of our mastermind group. We were at dinner at one of our events, and they were like, "Hey, you're not ordering a drink. Do you not drink?" I'm like, "No, I don't actually." And they were like, "Okay, but like, is this cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, that's on you. Like, you do you, I'm gonna do me." And then 5 or 6 minutes later, it's like, "Well, why? Why aren't you doing it?" So I kind of shared the same thing here. I'm just like, at the end result, like, I don't know if it really aligns with what I'm looking for. And his wife was like, that reminds me of a Proverb 31, where it talks about basically the king he shouldn't take strong drink because he has decisions to make, weighty decisions for the entire kingdom. And that hit me. Obviously I've read the verse, I've read the Bible, but I didn't like have that in my brain as like this thing that I lived by, except for that I did. It was the identity of like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going after. And then on top of that, for it to say, strong drink isn't for kings. It was like, oh man, like I've already identified that the king is my identity, bro. Like, come on. So very much like you, I just think that the listener should honestly, they should just pause and go back 5 minutes and listen to everything you just said again, because it's just straight gold. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to go into some of those red flags, some of those bad decisions, maybe top one that you did. I mean, you had a couple businesses, what was one thing that you did just like, don't do this?
So top note, like number one. And so are you familiar with Culture Index?
Yeah, I use it.
Okay, so do I. And if you're not listening, or if if you have a company that has more than 4 employees and you're looking to like spend a little money on a tool that's just like out of this world incredible, buy Culture Index. Like, it'll change your life. And I know DISC. I love DISC. DISC is great. So is the Enneagram. So it's like the 90s. I'm like probably taking them all. Strength fight.
CI is just another level.
Yeah, but CI it's different. Like, and when you start to take it, it changed the way that I operate. So biggest thing that I would say is like, and it can go 2 ways. One is know your numbers. Now, that's not what I like to do. I'm a daredevil, if you're familiar. So I'm like leader over here, social here, like I'm a social, not patient, follow through. is like,
terrible.
my follow through is a 1, my leadership is a 9.
Yep.
Like super, just not, yeah. So it's terrible. So know your numbers. Now, I don't like to do accounting because I don't like to do repetitive tasks. I'm not very good at accounting. However, I will make sure now in every business that I run, I know my numbers. How do I do that? I put someone in place who is really good at accounting.
Yep.
And I make sure that I have really good optics weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. And they're not the same times 4 or time. Like most people are like, my weekly metric is just my monthly metric. My monthly metric is just my quarter, times the multiplier of whatever it needs to be.
Right.
That's not good. That's okay. It's not great, but know your numbers. Like keep a scorecard every single day where you're going in and you're inputting your information of like, how much did I sell today?
Yeah.
How many people did I engage with today? Because when you know your numbers, it's really hard to be thrown off.
Yeah.
Like you can forecast all the problems and you make the good business decisions.
Right.
So if you don't want to know your numbers, hire someone who can tell you your numbers.
Yep, exactly.
Like that you can trust. And it doesn't need to be an accountant. If you're a guy like me, you probably want a COO.
Yep.
If you're a guy that's a COO, you probably want a guy like me. Like find that balance of because he doesn't have to be an accountant, the COO, but he's gonna want to learn more about it than you do.
Totally.
So, I mean, that's like my biggest piece of advice is like, and this is my first time ever being in a partnership in a business and like, and being surrounded by, dude, it's a game changer. Like I have people that I can rely on now in ways that literally like I can send an email to somebody and be like, hey, pull these 25 people for me and I'll call them or I'll do whatever, or tell me this, and this about our revenue. And I get it back. Or I have a software that I pull up. It's called 90.io and I pull it up and I have a scorecard and it's incredible.
Is the result of what you're sharing, obviously you've kind of given several key factors here based on even just your personality. Was the negative or the situation originally that you didn't have these things in place? You were all over the place. Obviously, I mean, I'm super familiar with the Daredevil profile. And so in essence, for the listener, it's like, man, you got a lot of ambition. You're willing to talk to people. You have no patience and you're all over the place, which is incredible, but can be terrible. And so the up and down that you described is spot on. And so was back in the day, was that like no systems? I didn't have the right person. I didn't know my numbers. Is that what happened? And then therefore now that's what the advice that you're giving?
Yeah. So my thing is like, you can always outsell bad production. And you can outsell it. Like if you're pretty decent at sales, you can outsell most of your problems. The problem is, unless you get the problem fixed, it's just going to cascade into a bigger problem. So like I'll go out,
money gets bigger and the risk gets bigger.
Yeah, I'll go out and grow a business to $1 million in 6 months. No problem. That's like, if people are like, oh, I wish I could do that. Like, no, you don't, because guess what?
Because then
a business
is gone.
Yeah, it's gone. And then you're like lawyers, attorneys. It's like not cool to, like what I love is having a partner or a team member or someone who, as I'm growing, like I know the numbers. And a lot of guys in the trades like don't want to work with their wives. I'm telling you right now, most of the times, like your wife can be your biggest asset in the trades. And in a lot of businesses, like my parents aren't in the trades, husband and wife. Like I know a lot of couples who are just power teams because when they started out, they couldn't afford to hire the second person.
Right.
But the husband's the visionary, like the go-getter, and then he
sales
thinks
guy.
He thinks that his wife is going to slow him down, and she will for his own good.
Right.
Like speed kills. It also can outperform everything, but like until you have a rock solid foundation, that speed it's not good. So that's
the same song and dance. It's the same up and down until you get the system.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's like, so I talked about that, the predictability.
Yeah.
Right. Predictability is based around processes.
Yep.
Do I like to write processes? No. But do I see the value of them?
Oh yeah. Yep. Got to have them. So
I sit down, I write them.
Yep.
And exactly. and then as a leader, I have to follow them, which again, my profile, not great. I don't love doing it, But like, I'm a leader. What does the leader do? Leader does what he says he's going to, lead from the front.
That's right.
So I do what I say I'm going to do. And if I write a process for other people to follow, I'm going to follow the process.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good, man. You're weaving in really just integrity and even maybe your faith, but just all these like deeper concepts of identity, really even into the practicality of getting your numbers and having even maybe your spouse involved. Like all those things are practical, but then you're given just the deeper level as well. Just because you gave me yours, I'm an architect, but I'm almost a 10 spread. Like A to C is almost an entire graph. And so there's a lot of things, a lot of projects, and a lot of stuff happening all at once. And we're going very fast. And oh, by the way, it needs to be perfect.
Yep.
So there's the people that are around me, they say, Chaz has a high standard, moves really fast, and likes to do new things all the time. Yeah, which is very, very awesome and difficult all in the same time.
Yeah.
So
I love architects. I love working with architects. Yeah, it's a great profile. And that's how I'm like the 10 spread same with the same deal. Okay. And it's just like, I'm literally 1 for my D, my follow through. It just so you know that, like, I'm literally, if you understand culture index, if you took a room of 1,000 people, out of those 1,000 people, I have the 0.001%. I'm like
extremity.
The lowest with follow through.
Yeah.
So people, if you think you're not good at follow through, like you haven't met me.
Yeah, but exactly. You got them beat.
Yeah, because I do what I say I'm going to do.
Yep.
Like usually I'm more of like the trailblazer. So I like hook that D back a little bit just because you have to. Like you can't not pay attention. Yeah. Until you have someone who else, and then you can be all vision. And super fun. But
yeah, it's super high level leverage that we're talking about here. And for the listener, because I'm associated with Culture Index, have been for many years, and we've probably done some similar trainings and stuff, but I implement all this stuff with a lot of my clients as well, as I'm sure you do. So if you're listening right now, you have no idea what we're talking about, send me an email to cw@chazwolfe.com, or you can just DM us on social media. There's going to be a link probably in the show notes. I'm sure that my editor will put it there, and we can get with you on this Culture Index stuff. It's a game changer, whether that's really Max or myself helping you. I'm sure Max would be willing to help because I'm sure it plays into his consulting play as well. But it's another level. There's even guys in my mastermind group that have been around me for a year plus. Just even recently, I got in with them a couple of times with a few of their team members. And it's like, man, I know this person, but you don't really, I know this person because I can see their graph and I can tell you exactly who they are. And when I can do that, or when you know the information, then you can make decisions based on the things that need to happen inside the business. So we may have just gone over just like way over your head, or maybe you're tracking with us. Either way, I'm sure either myself or Max would like to help you in this regard. So just connect with us regarding the Culture Index, and we can help you out with that. I want to go to our speed round real quick here. The first one around KPIs, which you've already described that numbers and KPIs is like not even in your realm, but you have to be. So what's that one thing that you would track if you could only pick one thing?
What area of business? Anything?
The whole deal. I'm trying to complicate the whole thing for you.
Man, if I could only track one thing, for me, like my favorite obviously is revenue. It's not the most helpful. I would say NOI, right? So net operating income. Like most business owners overspend right out of the gate, start making some money, start loving it, start like bringing it in, loving it. You go out, buy a nice car, or you get a little bit, you take your foot off the gas. But like at the end of the day, if you know your net operating income, like your net, then as a business owner how much you can actually take without hurting the business. And I don't like take it down to zero. Take all the money on it doesn't matter. The problems occur when you take past that. Mm-hmm. Like I don't recommend taking down to zero, obviously, because you don't have any money to hedge for protection. But
no retention.
If you don't know your net with like 100% accuracy, you're going to struggle. Because you'll over distribute to yourself. I've seen like maybe one guy who in his profile, tech expert, he's like those are the only guys that don't overspend. They're just like, they're very, very conservative. Or you could be like incredibly conservative and you're like hedging all this money. And if you're very conservative, you probably know your net operating income and you're hedging all this money and your business is going to grow exponentially slower. So you need to know that net.
100%. I think that even just the way you described it, I've had a lot of guys mention cash flow, net profit. It's been said, 100 different ways, but your picture there of not only knowing the number, but then knowing how to operate with it is you can't have a burn rate bigger than your flow. Like,
yeah,
it's not going to last very long. And to your point, starting a new business, there can be a burn rate. Like there's a period of time where I'm spending more than I'm making because it's an investment, and I can, hedge those things with maybe raised capital or capital that I saved to start the business, whatever. Like there's lots of ways to do that. Yeah. But you still got to know the number.
Yeah, you still do. And people just miss that. Like you have to know that number because that's it. And like I love leveraging other people's money for growth. Like I paid about a year ago, I paid $100,000 for a coaching thing. I raised money for it. Why would I pay for it? I mean, I don't want to pay 100, so why am I going to pay for it? So I didn't. I raised other people's money, gave them a good rate. Fortunately, they weren't making any money in the stock market, so it's easy to give them a really low interest rate. Like I think a lot of people misunderstand leverage. You can't get over leveraged. Now, if you know your net, you're not going to get over leverage. Should be good.
Yeah. Love it. What book would you recommend, Max, for a business owner trying to grow in 23?
Business Owner Trying to Grow in 23, To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink.
Love that book.
But like 90% of people out there have a bad story about selling. I don't want to be a salesperson, whatever. Yep. Like the cool thing is the market for selling recently is just it's going so different. Like I don't hire the typical extroverted people for sales. Like if you're a persuader, it's like you can be good at sales, but like you don't oftentimes drive it home hard enough.
Yeah. Or authentic enough. Is what I think.
Authentic enough. Yeah. And exactly. So that's a good point. To Sell is Human's great. I have all my books over there. Yeah. I would say that actually, you know what? Another one, because I'll just give you another one. $100 million offers.
Oh yeah.
If you know how to create an offer, that's so yeah. If you don't have that book, you're missing out. And I mean, if you do any people are like, oh, I'm in construction, I don't need to know my offer. You do, because you 100%. Can package things that don't cost you money. Like a mold remediation company can bring a hygrometer and put it in their offer that you're going to get a free hygrometer, and that homeowner thinks they're getting $100 worth of value. It's $2. Right.
Yep.
Like game changer.
Yeah. So 100% stack the offer, make it so valuable. In fact, make it so, make it so good. People feel stupid for saying no.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you, Alex Hormozy.
I
got a question here for you, and then we'll wrap up. The question's about family. Okay. And you've got a 2.5-year-old girl. You already mentioned that. You've already mentioned, papers with the wife and divorce possibly, or before, how that's obviously changed. But what are you doing now to make those things as much an obsession as the business, especially even given the profile that you mentioned that you have?
Yeah, super simple. Exactly. So again, if you guys know this, I have a lot going against me for being a good husband. Like other daredevils I know they're like, you need to get in an open relationship. I'm like, no, I don't. Thank you for your advice. Not going to do that. I don't. It's hard for me to focus on other things besides business. And I drive very hard. And my wife is very feminine and soft. And the biggest thing for me that I realized is, as a husband, there are 4 levels you have to go through. Well, first thing is this: I'm a lover, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Therefore, in anything that I do, I'm going to do with love for my wife. Now, so one of the reasons I don't like to drink at night, I don't want to be drunk. I don't want to be hungover. If my daughter wakes up at 3 a.m. and I'm not able to go in there with love and be with her, I'm not loving my wife. And
or your daughter, but
my daughter
behind the scenes is your wife.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing is you as a husband are 100% responsible for how your wife shows up.
I love that.
People are like, my wife is distant. It's your fault. My wife is spending all my money. It's your fault. My wife and I don't have sex. It's your fault. And, my wife is sharp with me in front of our kids. It's still your fault. When you show up as a man and you lead and love your wife, you create if you're the earth, you're the foundation. She can be the weather, and that's what she wants to be. She wants to be the storm. She wants to be turbulent. And you have to accept that. You have not accept it, you love it. Like, I love that about my wife, because that femininity is what opens her up to just flourishing into this like beautiful, dynamic person that you get to meet.
Yeah.
So as husbands, there's 4 foundations you have to get to be a good husband. The first is stability. If you aren't providing stability, your wife will not trust you.
Yeah. And you as a Daredevil know this more than anybody, I bet.
100%.
Stability, Daredevil.
Yeah, like they're literally, it's like black and white, like that. Yeah. So, and I'm so comfortable outside of stability because I know I can bet on myself,
right,
to overcome.
Figure it out.
But that's not fair to her.
That's right.
So stability. The next thing is peace. If you don't have peace, like if you give financial stability is great. The next thing you have to give them is peace. How do you give them peace? You love them with everything you have, right? And you give them that, like, you don't come in like all stormy, all emotional. Right, like you come, not saying you're just hide it all. No, like you give them peace that things are going to be okay. Yep. The next thing is love. Because people think that like love is foundation. Like if you can love somebody really hard, and like if you don't have stability, it's gonna, like that love's gonna get fractured really quickly. Yeah. So peace or stability, peace, then love. Anything and everything you do it out of love.
Yeah.
And then that allows you to have a joyful and abundant relationship.
Love that.
And the pinnacle is joy, right? Like that's where you want to be. So if you want to succeed in marriage, peace or stability, peace, love, joy. Yeah. Follow that. And then remember that every way that she shows up, it's your fault. And, do it over a long period of time and you'll see this massive paradigm shift in you and your wife, and it'll be incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So good. I hope that the listener is paying attention and goes back and listens, because I think, a big reason why I started asking this question here on the show is because I think a lot of entrepreneurs have this wrestle, family, marriage, business, and then there's all people talking about balance. And I think that's just, forget that. We just got to go in all of these directions all at once, which speaks to your heart of living outside of stability. But even inside of that, you can still have structure. The confines that you just gave to us are incredible. So thank you for sharing that. I got one last question here for you, Max. I want to know if you could whisper in the younger Max's ear, what would you say?
Probably you're worthy. That was the biggest thing for me, right? Like you are worthy. And like, if you understand that you're worthy, you understand that you can have an abundant life.
Yeah.
It's like this, and that was such a big thing for me to struggle with for so long, was I didn't understand that worthiness piece.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good, man. You've given us a lot to think about. Identity all the way to practical, tips in bringing forth strategic partnerships to grow your business. You've been incredible. How can the listener find you? So I want to give just 2 options here, just a real quick promo. Obviously, if someone wants to pick your brain as an entrepreneur, cool.
Yeah.
But maybe they're in the trades, maybe they're not. You help both, but maybe this talk that you've given here today has stirred something up and they want to reach out for a paid consulting. They want to be able to grow personally or as a business owner. How can they find you that way as well?
Do this. So Max Mayes at Instagram, at Max Mayes, MAXMAYES. Super easy. And I'll give this out to people because I know how many entrepreneurs go through this really deep struggle and they think that a website is going to solve their problems. Sure. You can literally text me at 904-553-6900. Hit me up with any of your problems, any of your concerns, any of your questions, and however I can help, I'll be there.
Love it. Yeah, we'll put both of those, the number and also the Instagram in the show notes. But as the listener, don't be that guy that just listens. Be the guy that takes action. Take Max up on his offer. And Max, you just be incredible, man. Like I think we could, guys like you and I, we could probably just talk for hours and hours. And now knowing your profile, I know that you don't have a schedule. No, I'm just kidding.
I know, right? Yeah,
we can just keep going and going and going. I'm the one that's looking like, oh geez, the time I got to go. You've been incredible. Thank you. Blessings on your family, your little girl, your wife, your business, all the things, man. I just appreciate you being here and dropping so much value on us today.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300
other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.